The Payment of Bonus Act. Already we have discussed about this act, why this act has been enacted, and this act has been passed in the year 1965. So as far as the Payment of Bonus Act is concerned, we are referring it with respect to the year 1965. Today we will highlight on two concepts. One is set off and set on. So based only on the set off and set on, we will be paying what is called as the bonus. So it is very important in order to know what is set off and set on, and how this gross profit and how the company's gross profit is being arrived at is also very important. So we will be seeing each one by each. So first we will talk about the sums. Which are the sums which is deductible from the gross profit? So when we are trying to ascertain the gross profit, as we know, the percentage of bonus is minimum is 8.33 and maximum is 20%, as already we have discussed in the previous YouTube videos. Now, as we know, only it is based on the gross profit. So we should know what is inclusive of gross profit and what are the things which are there in the gross profit. So first we will have a look at the sums. What are the sums which is deductible from gross profit as prior charges regarding section 6. So when you talk about section 6, it is the amount which is being got after deducting this prior charges. So this prior charges we will see what it is, and based on that only we will calculate what is called as available surplus. So as we know, available surplus means already discussed under section 2 subsection 6. It is referring that available surplus is computed, that is whatever sections are relevant to sections 5, 4, 6, 7. Under this we will be trying to calculate the gross profit. So based on that gross profit only we will take. So this is given in the first and second schedules of the particular act. So based on the particular accounting year, whatever gross profit we are getting for that particular accounting year, we have to deduct based on the gross profit only. So here when you are talking about section 6, we have to talk about the sums which are deductible from gross profit. That is based on that we calculate what is called as depreciation. Then we have to talk about development rebate or investment allowance or development allowance or any other direct taxes which have been calculated according to section 7. So we have to take that, and based on that only, here the direct taxes to be very specific is calculated by the thing, and it should be calculated by the employer, and suppose some other sums is mentioned under schedules 3, we have to take all those also, like provisions for bonus and other reserves, like that we have to take it consideration. Now we will see each one by one. So first point is any amount whichever is being called as a depreciation. So any amount of depreciation which is admissible with respect to income tax 1961. So whenever we talk about depreciation, we have to refer it to the allowable depreciation, that is admissible. When we try to calculate the income tax, gross profit, that is net profit, we have to know what is called as allowable depreciation and unallowable. So we have to know what is allowable, that is admissible. So we have to take a note of what are the admissible expenses and what are not admissible expenses. So here when we talk about depreciation, we are referring that part of depreciation which is called as admissible and which is allowed under section 32 subsection 1 of the Income Tax Act. So we have to take that, or in accordance with the provision of the agriculture income tax, as the case may be. So next one is any amount called as a development rebate, or we even call it as an investment allowance, which the employer is entitled. So the employer will be deducting that amount from his income under Income Tax Act. So that is called as the development rebate, or even they call it as investment allowance, which will be deducted from the profit, that is prior charges. That is when we are calculating the distribution of amount of bonus. Then regarding section 7, as I already told you, it is referring to the direct tax which based on the income the employer has to pay for that particular accounting year. So this is calculated based on the income what the employer has gained during the year, or he has got some profits or some gains. So whatever the name can be, it can be called as an income or profit or gains which he has gained during that particular accounting year. Please specify the accounting year. So based on that accounting year, if anything has been paid based on his income, profit or gains in the form of direct tax, then we can allow that also. Then under section 7 we have referred now. Then regarding some other specified thing, as I told you, so like donations in excess of the amount admissible for income tax, or some capital expenditure, or some thing. So as I told you, some losses or expenditure which is related to this business, or anything which is directly disclosed as capital receipts, all these are to be taken into consideration. So this is what is called as any other sum which is specified in respect of the employer in the third schedule. So under section 6, the permissible deduction from the gross profit is not depreciation calculated. As I already told you, this is not the depreciation which is calculated according to any recognized method of accountancy followed by a banking company. Only we have to take the admissible depreciation. So based on the 32(1). So we should not take any method. As we know, there are a lot of methods in depreciation, but we are not specifically mentioning any method. So we have to be very clear. Whatever is permissible under Income Tax Act regarding section 32(1) as a permissible depreciation, or it is called as allowable depreciation or admissible depreciation, only that amount should be treated as a depreciation amount and not any other amount. Then regarding the direct tax, so how will we calculate this direct tax? As I told you under section 7, so when we are trying to calculate this direct tax, what is payable by the employer for the particular year, we have to take some rates which is applicable. So under the particular accounting year, we have to look into the assessment year, and based on that assessment year, what is the percentage of income that is payable by the employer, that should be calculated. So when you're trying to calculate the direct tax based on the profits, incomes or gains, we should take a note that while calculating such tax, we should not take, as I told you, we should not take any loss incurred by the employer in respect of any previous accounting year which is carried forward. So while calculating such tax, we should not take any carry forward losses which the employer has incurred in previous year, or any arrears of depreciation, or any exemption which has been allowed by the employer under section 84, or any other deduction which is already he is entitled. So here we have to take a note of it. Same way, when the employer is contributing for some religious or charitable institutions, which is with respect to section 32, even that do not apply. And if it is given that is any whole or any part of it is income is except from tax under the income tax. So in that case also we should take into consideration for calculating the direct. Same way, where the employer is an individual or a HUA family, the tax payable on the establishment and any rebate which the employer has received for the export of goods or merchandise, same way we should not take, no account shall be taken for any rebate other than the, as we know, we will allow development allowance and development rebate. Some other allowance, some other name, or for that they are taking means that is or credit or relief of deduction in case of any payment for direct tax. So here when you are talking about the rebate, we know what is called as rebate. It is any tax which you have paid, we will be getting back and the credit for that, that is called as rebate or relief. And that particularly we have to have some conditions. So based on only we will be taking the rebate or relief. So we are talking about any direct tax which has been paid. That is a rebate or relief in case of any direct tax. In order to fall within the purview of the sections, it has to have two conditions. So it has to satisfy two conditions. The first one is the rebate or relief which is allowed and any law for the time being in force which is directly related to direct tax or which is relevant to the annual finance act, we know. So whatever the annual finance act is specifying, that will be the rate of income tax. So as far as income tax is concerned, the rate which is specified in the particular finance act will be coming into force. So based on that only they will be giving rebate or relief. It is specified based on the direct taxes for that particular relevant act. Same, that must be a rebate or relief only for the development of the any industry. So if it is only the rebate or relief which is for the development of the industry, then we should take into. Then regarding eligibility under section 8. So when you talk about section 8, there are some consequences, that is if any employee, that is every employee who is entitled to be paid by his employer bonus. So as I already referred that every employee is eligible for bonus if he has worked at least 30 working days in that particular year. So if he has worked in 30 working days in the particular year, then he is eligible for bonus. Same way, if an employee is coming under general insurance company, that is LIC or state or central government establishments or Indian Red Cross Society, universities, education institutions, hospitals or Unit Trust of India or IFCI, RBI or social welfare institutions, they are not eligible. As we know, have already seen who are not eligible for bonus already in the previous videos. You can just refer to it. So these people are not eligible for bonus. So what they paid as bonus is called as ex gratia payment. So here it is not necessary that 30 days of work shall be continuous period. So we even take the break-in of service. Same way, if an employee has been suspended but he has been reinstated subsequently with all the wages, that is not to be treated as an ineligibility. So wages cannot be treated to be ineligible for bonus for that particular period of suspension. So this is a note we have to know for the eligibility of section 8 for tax. Then how this bonus is being calculated. So as I told you, when you talk about basic pay, so the rate of bonus is based on the company's or the industry's willingness. So the particular employer will decide the rate of bonus. So let us as an example for this, as a minimum bonus is 8.33. So if the basic salary is 8,000, and as I already told you, the dearness allowance, all the other allowance we will not take into consideration. Only dearness allowance will be taken into consideration for calculating the bonus. So if the basic salary is 8,000 and the dearness allowance is 1,500, we will see how this calculations will be. So we know that 8,000 is getting as a basic pay and dearness allowance will be 1,500 per month. So we will add both the things and we will get 9,500, that into for 12 months. So we have to multiply by it into 12. We will get the answer, and whatever the percentage, as we have already specified in this example, we have fixed the percentage as the minimum bonus. So it is 8.33 percentage. So 9,500 into 12 will be 1,14,000. That into 8.33. You can ask me a question, ma'am, how this 8.33 has been come into existence. As I already told you, the minimum bonus payable for an employee is 8.33. So on that basic rule we are taking into consideration. So this is a statutory specification made under the Payment of Bonus Act 1965. So that we are taking that 8.33. So that 8.33 divided by 100, as we know it is a percentage, we are getting the annual bonuses 9496.2. So that will be rounded off to 9496, that is 9500 into 10 as a multiples of 10. Now, how do we compute this working day? As I told you already, we have to be very specific on calculations of the number of working days. So that is section 14. So when you're trying to calculate this employee who has worked in the particular establishment, we have to take some of the things into consideration. So if he has been laid off under any agreement which is permitted by the standing orders. So as we already know, the Industrial Disputes Act or Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. So whenever this laws are applicable, when the particular employee has been laid off under the particular act, or he has been granted leave with the salary or wages, or he has been absent due to temporary disablement, you know, that is a disablement which has been caused by the employee. So under the Employee Compensation Act, a person is under temporary disablement, that is due to the accident which has been arised out of and in the course of employment. In such case, he is not in the job, or is not present due to his illness. So that is temporary disablement which has been caused to him by the accident which is arising out and in the course of employment. Or suppose the employee has availed maternity leave with salary or wage or during the accounting year, then we cannot take that as a holiday or absent. So it will be taken as a work. Now we will have a look at the concept called as set on under section 15. So as I already told you, so whenever we talk about the accounting year, we have to take the allocable surplus, and when we are calculating the allocable surplus, suppose the amount of maximum bonus what is payable to the employee in the under section 11, that is if it is exceeding 20% limit, as I told you, of the total salary or wages of the employee in the particular establishment during that particular year, the difference of amount which is exceeding 20% will be carry forward. That will be taken to the succeeding accounting year. That is what called a set on, carry forward. The reason is, in case if he's not having profits in next years, this profit can be utilized. That is the underlying idea why it has been set on. So that can be carried forward up to and inclusive of the fourth accounting year. So till fourth accounting year, that can be utilized for the purpose of bonus. So that is called a set on. Same way, set off is nothing but, as I told you, in the particular year, if they don't have any available surplus. So the available surplus is based on the gross profit and all the other things which have taken already. How do we compute this gross profit for the purpose of bonus? Suppose we don't have any available surplus, or we don't have allocable surplus in respect of the particular year. If there is a shortage of amount, then how to pay the bonus? We have to pay the bonus. So what can be done is, under section 10, if we don't have any amount, or we don't have sufficient amount, we have an amount but it is not sufficient. In such case, what we do is, we try to carry forward and set on the amount which had been already we have seen, no, so which could be utilized for the purpose of the payment of bonus, that is minimum bonus. Then we have to find out that minimum amount or the deficiency, the difference. So the case may be fully we don't have the bonus amount, or sometimes we will have the amount which is not sufficient. So we call it as a deficiency. So that deficiency amount or the such minimum amount, that can be carried forward for being set off in the succeeding accounting year. So as I told you, and it can be done up to and inclusive of the fourth. Now we will see how this is done. So while calculating set on and set off for the succeeding accounting year, the amount of set on or set off can be carried forward from the earliest accounting year. So as I told you, whichever year is earliest, that should be taken first. So year 1 first, year 2 second, like that. Earliest accounting year shall be first be taken into account. Same way when we calculate the allocable surplus, so it is distributed among the employees based on the proportion of this wages or salary, whatever the name is, based on that particular year, how much he has received or distributed during the particular relevant year. That will be the basis for allocable surplus in order to compute how much is to be distributed to the in that particular year. Now regarding special provisions with respect to certain establishment under section 16. So first one, in the particular first 5 accounting years, we have to see that employer is selling goods or produced goods or manufactured goods by him, or he is rendering some service It can be by he's indulged directly in manufacturing process or is rendering some service. Then bonus will be payable only in the respect of accounting year. This is very important. We have to make a note of it. So only in the respect of the accounting year in which the employer derives profit. So only when he is having profit he will be paid. This is the case. So when he is the first 5 accounting years, and such bonus will be calculated with the provisions of the act. So from the 5 years, this is the thing. From the 6th year and 7th year, suppose in the case, suppose an employer is selling the goods which is produced or manufactured by him, or the services as already discussed into account, there is an excess amount or there is a deficiency. So the case may be, then they will look into the allocable surplus set on or set off in the 5th year and 6th accounting year. So suppose they don't have, then they can look into the first 5 years thing. From the 8th year, they have to say, this is section 15, that he has made some provisions in the particular year to the depreciation, which as already discussed, the provision here for depreciation itself is admissible depreciation under the Income Tax Act. So based on that, or as the case with agriculture income tax. So if suppose there is an arrears of such depreciation or some losses which has been incurred by him in the establishment for the previous year, that also can be fully set off against his profit for 5th year. Then regarding adjustment of interim bonus which is payable under the Act section 70. So this interim is like they are paying for the employees during pujas or other customary bonus, or sometimes he is paid some part of the bonus under this act to an employee before this due date, and they are paying on the due date, that is when the bonus is payable. Then the employer is entitled to deduct the amount of bonus whichever is being paid from the employer, stating it as bonus by him to the employee. So that particular year, and that should be, suppose he is having paid bonus, so bonus amount is 10,000. So he is given 2,000, then he is eligible only to get 8,000, the difference, okay, based on the amount what is to be received. So only the balance. Then regarding the deductions for certain amounts from bonus under what all the deductions which is allowable under this act, that is section 18 of this act. Suppose in the particular year, if an employee is not good, that is he is guilty of some misconduct or he is causing some financial loss to the employer, then according to the law, for the lawful for the employer to deduct the amount. So whatever the loss has been caused by the employee, that can be deducted from the bonus which is payable to the employee. So this is very, very important. If we see any employee who is misbehaving or he is causing some loss to the concern, that is he is doing some misconduct and which there is some financial loss which the employer has suffered, in such case the employer can lawfully deduct the amount. So whatever the loss amount is there, that can be deducted by from the employee's bonus. For example, he is eligible for a bonus of 15,000 and he has caused some financial loss of 5,000. Then what is the amount he can claim as bonus? So the amount payable is only 15,000 minus loss of 5,000. So payable amount of bonus will be 10,000. This is how we have to calculate the deductions in case an amount. Then what is the time limit for payment of bonus? Section 19. As we know, bonus is paid every year. So this if it is pending before any authority under section 22, so within a month, so when the award has been given, so before, for that is when the talking about the decree, that is award has been done, because there is a pending, and from that particular date within 1 month they have to settle that particular bonus. Same way, suppose bonus is paid in cash, so within 8 months from the particular closing of the year, that is the accounting year is being closed, or within 1 month, so when that, as I told you, enforceable or settlement, or that, so when the bonus is not paid or some issues are there and the particular matter has been referred to industrial dispute, As we know, there will be an order which is called as award, which is being given. So based on the award, we have to decide the date. That is, when the thing is given, award is given, within 1 month it should be payable, and we know bonus is payable only annually. Then what are the applications, that is establishments in public sector for special cases, that is certain cases under section 20. So if in any accounting year, in case of a public sector, they are selling or producing goods or manufacturing or running service in competition with an establishment in private sector, that is here we are referring it as a public sector undertaking, PSUs, comparing with the competitor from the private sector, and income from such sale or services or both is not less than 20% of the gross income of the establishment in public sector for that year, then the provisions of this act shall be applicable to such establishment in public sector as it is applicable like private sector. This is very important, we have to note that the income from such sale or services or both is not less than 20%, and same as otherwise in subsection. So this is not employed for the, this is that is act shall be applied to all the employees who are employed in the public sector equal to the. Then what how the bonus is being recovered due from the employer. So as we know, if money is due to an employee in the name of bonus from the employer, and it is a settlement as in case of industrial disputes or as an award and agreement, then the employee can get the particular bonus by giving a writing. So the employee can give a writing, or sometimes even he can authorize some person to receive. In case if the employee is no more, that is death, then he can assign the particular thing to his legal heir. That is, there is no prejudice to any other mode of recovery. So he can make an application to the appropriate government for the recovery of the money whatever is due to him. And if suppose if the appropriate government or such authority or appropriate government, they have to specify, that is they are satisfied that there is any money so due, and they have to issue a certificate. So that particular certificate is issued for that amount to the collector, and who will proceed to recover the same in the same manner as an arrear of land revenue. So this is to be collected as an arrear equal to the arrear of land revenue. Same way, if every such application should be made within, there is a time limit. So within 1 year from the date on which the money become due to the employee from the employer. So after a lapse of 1 year, they cannot make any such applications. So next one is, if they make any application and that particular application has been entertained after the expiry of such period of 1 year, because there is some thing to believe. So if the appropriate government is satisfied that the applicant has sufficient cause for not making, suppose he has fallen ill and he cannot do anything in such case. So if the appropriate government is satisfied with the reason why he is not made the application within 1 month, then if they are satisfied, they can give the extension of time also. So this is with respect to from an employer. The reference of disputes under the Act sections 22. Suppose when there is any dispute which has been arised between the employer and an employee regarding this bonus, as I told you. So that will be coming under the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, that is section 14. So in that case, whatever the settlement or disputes has been given, that has to be followed, and we have to refer to, suppose bonus is not paid, that particular matter can be only taken to the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. This is the for reference to the dispute. Then regarding the audited accounts of banking companies should not be questioned under section 24. As we know that if suppose there is a dispute regarding section 22, which have seen now, between an employer and employee regarding banking company, and if the particular employee has referred that particular matter during the course of proceeding, that is the accounts of the banking company has been audited and has been produced before the particular authority, then he should not permit any trade union or employees to question the correctness of this such accounts. The employee or the trade union cannot question the correctness of such accounts, but the trade union or the employee, they may be permitted to obtain from the banking company information. So they cannot question the correctness of the such accounts, but they can ask for the information. So they can even ask, say, we want to verify the amount of bonus due. So for that you provide us information. They cannot question, but they can seek information. That is what we have to refer here. And in case of subsection 1 here, that is in what it is the trade union or the employees, they can obtain, as I told you, they can get information from the banking company, which is not compelled to furnish any other information under the Banking Regulation Act of 1999. Then they have to maintain some records or registers under section 26. That is, they have to maintain records, so that is necessary. And under section 27, there is an inspector who has been appointed by the official notification through official gazette, and that person has to be the inspectors in order to check under this particular act of the Payment of Bonus Act 1965, and he has to say the limit within which they exercise his jurisdiction. And what they do is, if they want, they have to see the purpose why there is a provision so has been compiled. That is, they can check whether all the provisions have been compiled, and they can ask the employer to furnish all the necessary information. So what all the information is necessary, they can even ask the employer to provide, and within the particular time with some assistance. If we want, he even can enter the establishment or the premises and ask for the records or books of accounts, other documents, which is to know about the employment of persons, the amount of payment of salary or wages or bonus. So they have all the right to inspect them. Same way, they can examine some other purpose really which is relevant to the employer or his agent who is the charge of this establishment, or they even can visit the premises or even inspect the reasonable cost, so they can see how many number of employees there, what is the amount of salary paid, wages paid, all these details. And sometimes they even take the copies or take some extracts from the book or registers if they need it. And whatever the powers has been confirmed by them, they can exercise such powers. And the inspectors who are being appointed this act, they are called as the public servant under the meaning of IPC, Indian Penal Code of 1860. Same way, this person who is there, he can even see some accounts, books, registers or other documents, and they also can ask them to produce such documents which can be legally bound to do. So something they have the power. So these inspectors, they can ask the banking company to disclose any statement or information. Even they can give inspection of books of accounts or other documents, and banking company cannot be compelled to furnish, disclose or produce inspection of under 34 they cannot give, but all the other documents they have to give. So yeah, now we will see the offences and penalties under section 28 under this act 1965, the Payment of Bonus Act. If they are not following the rules and regulations, then the penalty is imprisonment up to 6 months or a fine of ₹1,000 or both. In case if they don't follow the directions or they are not paying the penalty, then they have to, that is, they are not having directions, they are not complying with the directions, or they are not giving any requisitions or what has been made, then the same is the case with the imprisonment of up to 6 months or a fine of ₹1,000 or both. And suppose if it is an offence which is done by a company, firm, body corporate or association of individuals or their directors, partners or sometimes principal officers, then if they are doing something or they are responsible for conducting the business, then they have to be found, that is, they have found that their guilt, something has been done, they are found as guilt, then for that particular offence, unless they prove that the offence was not without knowledge, then there is concept called as due diligence. So if they prove that they have taken all the steps in order to check the authentication and proof, then it is okay. So if the offence has not been committed without their knowledge, then okay. If it is committed with their knowledge, then they are it is a punishable as penalty to be paid. Then what are the protection of action which is taken under section 31? So they cannot go for suit or prosecution or other legal proceedings, and that should lie against the government or any officer of the government for anything. Only for the good faith it has been done. and the particular rule has been made. So in such case, they cannot make any prosecution, suit or other legal proceedings at our offices. And this act does not apply to certain classes of employees under section 32. Already we have discussed this in the previous video under this particular act, but I just give a revamp of it. So the employees of the LIC or the dock workers or the central government or state government, local authority or workers or people working in the Red Cross, university, education institutions, hospital, chamber of commerce and social establishment, they are not for profit, because we know it is all non-profitable organizations. Then as far as the employees of RBI or other employees like employee of the Indian Industrial Finance Corporation or NABARD or UTI or ODBI or SIDBI or NHB, these financial institutions, they are also not eligible regarding the payment of bonus. Then the power of exemption under 36. Suppose if the appropriate government, they have the power to look into the financial position and other relevant circumstances of this institution or the class of establishment, and if they feel opinion that only there is no that will not be in public interest to apply for all the provisions, so they have to give in the official gazette. So what are the exemptions for how many periods, that is period should also be specified. So based on that, they have to give the establishments which are given exemptions under section 32 from the payment of bonus. This is with respect to the, in order to protect the public interest, and that should be made in the official gazette. Only then this power of exemption can be claimed if that particular. Then regarding the section 32, that refers to the power to make rules. So as we know, the central government can make the rules in order to make any provisions with respect to this particular act, and even in particular without any prejudice to the generality of the foregoing power, they have some rules which gives authority for granting permissions, or like they can even go for preparation of registers, records and other documents, and also they can give the maintenance, how it should be maintenance, and they also have the power in order to exercise an inspector. And suppose any other thing has been specified on the law, they have to follow. Same way, when they make any rule under this, and as soon as if it is made, before each house of parliament in session, they have to take a total period of 30 days. So when any rule has been made under this section and it has been said, as soon as it is taken, they have to take into the both house of the parliament in the particular session for a total period of 30 days. So regarding the calculation of statutory bonus, as I told you, it is 8.33% is the statutory bonus. And while we are calculating, we take the basic and the dearness allowance which is payable to the employee. So we don't take whether we have available surplus or profit. We are, that is a statutory bonus is payable. It is as per the statute. So 8.33 is a minimum and maximum is 20%, and this 20% is based on the depending availability of profit. Okay, same way this particular act, 1965 Payment of Bonus Act, it is giving the employees a statutory right. So this is very important law which is giving a bonus to the employee. Same way it is a statutory right of a employee to get a share in the profits of his employer. So before this act they used to get bonus, but they were just pleased to pay the same. But now it is a statutory right and they can claim, as I told you, the pay minimum is 8.33%, but there is no thing that only when we have their profit. No, it is irrespective whether they have profit or not. So they are not much bothered about availability of surplus or profit. So regarding this act, as it is already as mentioned, it is payable only to the confirmed employee and whose basic is less than or equal to 21,000 is eligible. And as I told you, the minimum bonus is always equal to 1 month salary or bonus. So this is 8.3% is their annual earnings. And this act is also putting a ceiling on the bonus, and as we know the ceiling is 2.5 months. So minimum is 1 month salary and maximum is 2.5% salary, which is 20% of the annual earnings. Now when you talk about the available surplus, as we know, available surplus is equal to gross profit minus depreciation which is allowable under section, that is admissible depreciation under section 32 of the Income Tax Act. If we have any development allowance or development rebate, that will be taken as the deductions. So when we talk about the gross profit, so we have to take a gross profit calculation. First schedule is for non-banking companies and the second schedule is for all the other companies. Now how do we calculate this available surplus? So available surplus is always equal to gross profit, provided we deduct the depreciation admissible, then we deduct the development allowance, we deduct the direct taxes payable for the accounting year, and some other shared amounts which is specified in the third schedule can also be deducted, but we have to add back the direct taxes which is being calculated for the immediately preceding year, accounting year, and we have to deduct the direct taxes in case of such profits which has to be reduced by the amount of bonus. So any amount has been given as a bonus, that should be reduced from the direct taxes for the immediately preceding accounting year. Then regarding the formula, how do we calculate this available surplus? So as far as the direct tax payable for the accounting year is concerned, we have to calculate the sums what is specified in the third schedule. Then regarding direct taxes also, we have to take the gross profit for the accounting year. So allocable surplus is equal to 60% of the available surplus. This is for all Indian companies and 67% in case of foreign companies. When we make an adjustment for set off and set on, we have to calculate the amount of bonus in the particular year. That is the reference for calculating the set off. Now regarding the provisions on set on and set off provisions. So as we know, when we are calculating the bonus, the allocable surplus, when the amount is more than 20%, that is when the allocable surplus is more than the amount paid to the employees as bonus, we will be calculating 20%, and the excess whatever amount is their allocable surplus, that will be carried for the next year for calculating purpose. So that is called as carry forward for being set off in succeeding year. As we know, the ceiling is to be carried forward 20% of this total salary and wages of the employed in the establishment. So in other words, even we say if the actual excess is more than 20% of the salary, only we know there is a restriction, so only 20% is to be required to be carried forward. So the amount set on is carried forward only up to and inclusive of the fourth accounting year, and it should not be utilized in the particular year if it is lapsing. So only we can take that 4 inclusive 4 account. Regarding the calculation of bonus, it is in a simplified manner given for our understanding. The method of calculation of annual bonus is given like this. First, we have to calculate the gross profit. As we know, for first schedule is for banking company and schedule 2 is for all other companies. We have to calculate the available surplus. So how this available surplus is calculated? We have to take the gross profit, then deduct the depreciation admissible, development allowance or rebate or direct taxes payable for the accounting year, then any other sums which is specified. So we will get one amount that is called as A. Regarding B, we take the direct taxes. So that particular direct taxes is particularly for that particular immediately preceding accounting year. And suppose any other direct tax we have to deduct, that is direct taxes in respect of such gross profit which has been the difference of the amount of bonus which has been given. So for the immediately preceding year, we have to deduct that. So we have to take the available surplus. So that is with respect to A and B. We have to add A plus B. So example, we have taken gross profit is 200, permissible expenses 40, so depreciation is 20, then income taxes 20%. So payment to worker is 10. So we will see how the solution is there. 200 minus this 40 permissible expenses minus this depreciation 20 will be 140, and 140 minus 28, that is 112. So this is the tax 20%. And as we know, in Indian companies it is 60% is allocable surplus 67. So is a bonus to be given is 20% of 10 x 2. So the amount left will be 67 minus 2, that is 20%. Then the firm can get set on for 4 years, that is 8 is the answer. Now set on and set off of allocable surplus. As I told you, it can allocable surplus is maximum, that is when the excess difference, that is to be for 4 succeeding years. Suppose we don't have any allocable surplus, then we cannot carry forward any amount. So though this bonus is more or less based on that. So suppose we have a deficiency that can be set off in 4 succeeding years. So only based on the schedule 4 we are referring to the set on and set off act. So as far as the set on and set off allocable surplus is there, based on the accounting year, when we have some allocable surplus which is exceeding the maximum bonus which is payable to the employer under section 11, then we have to calculate the excess. So we know that limit is 20% of the total salary or wages, and based on that accounting year that can be carried forward till the 4th inclusive accounting year, and as we know it can only be utilized based on the illustrations in the 4th schedule, which we will see in the next slide. So in case of the accounting year there is no available surplus, or we don't have any allocable surplus in the particular year, we have only shortage of minimum bonus, then we have to refer to section 10. When there is no amount, or we don't have sufficient amount, then we have to look into the carry forward of set on, and which that particular amount which is carry forward from set on can be utilized in order to pay the minimum bonus, and that such minimum amount or the deficiency, as we call the case may be, that can be carried forward for set off in the succeeding accounting year, and as we know only till the inclusive of the 4th accounting year. The reason or the principal rule for set on and set off is we will see the 4th schedule, and it is covering all the things except the subsection 1 or 2 in case of payment of bonus. Same way, if you in the accounting year the amount has been carried forward and they are being set on and set off under this section, while calculating the bonus we have to take the succeeding accounting year. Same way, the amount what we are trying to go for set on and set off can be carried forward from the earliest year. As I told you, first year that should be taken first, second year next, like that. So this is an example. So we are talking about 60% as case of Indian company and 67 case in case of bonus. So we will take amount equal to 60% or 67% as the case may be. So we are seeing now, so first case is 1,04,167. This is the allocable surplus we have. Then the payment of bonus can be made based on 1,04,167. That is the minimum amount. We don't have any set. This is the first year, so we don't have any set on, so nil, and the total set on will be also nil. And in second year we have 6,35,000. The amount what is payable as bonus is 2,50,000. We have set on. So what we do is set on is 2,50,000. This is the second case. So but the amount payable in third year is 2,20,000, but we have 2,50,000. So we can take that 30,000 from second year. So we get 2,20,000 in first year and that 30,000 for the second year. Same with the case, we can refer this for your better understanding.